Hello everyone and thank you for joining me. My name is Akir and in today's lesson we are going to talk about two-dimensional arrays, and I have a little practice here which I think is very essential for people who just starting to learn about two-dimensional arrays. I think you can get the idea by doing this practice. You can get the ways that you scan format, iterate through the array, read format, and do some calculations in between. So in this practice, what we're going to do is we're going to get two two-dimensional arrays and do the following calculation on it. So from the first array, we are going to read it as follows, just like that, just like you're reading a normal book. And the second one, the ways that we're going to read that will be like that. And what do we need to do that for? Well, so what we want to do is eventually to fill our own our own regular array basically, and which is going to look like this. So this array will contain three cells, and those three cells will be filled with the sum of every row with every column of the second array. So every row from the first array and every column from the second array. But it will be corresponding to the number of row will be corresponding to the number of column of the second array. So I'll give you an example. So what we need to do is to read from this and multiply all this with this. See, so we are reading from the first row and multiply that with the first column of the second array. Again, and then we're going to read from the second row and multiply that by the second column of the second array. And read from the third row, multiply that with the third column of the second array. So the calculation should be like this, basically. Every time we get in an element from the first array, we multiply it with the element from the second array. So, as we said, we're reading rows here and columns here. So this is the first row, we're going to read the first column. So 1 times 8. Okay, and I'll write it down here. So we have 1 times 8, and then we do an addition between them. The second ones that we're going to read, the second elements that we're going to read are 2 and 3. Okay, so then we'll do that here, 2 times 3. And then we add an addition for the next item, and we'll read 3 and 7. So 3 times 7, sorry, times 7. And since we finished with the row, both row and column, we'll write what we ended up with in here. So let's see what we end up with. So 1 times 8, it's 8 plus 6. Oh, actually it's, okay, so 8 plus 6 plus 21. So we are with 35, so we write 35 in here. And so we'll continue to the next row. So basically we're going to continue scanning. So 5 with 1. Second row, second column. So the second one is going to be 5 times 1, 5 times 1, and then 8 times 4, 8 times 4, oops, and then 9 times 1. Okay, so we have here 8 times 4. Okay, plus 9 plus 5. That's 46. And we write here 46. And then we'll do the same with the last row. So basically we read all that. And now we'll read the last row and the last column. And we'll end up with the following numbers. So we'll do 9 times 9 times 2 plus 4 times 6 plus 0, basically, because 5 times 0. So 42. Alright, 42. Okay, and now our CRA is ready, and what we need to do is to return it. So we're going to build a method that is going to return this array after it's been completed, after the scan is completed. So let's do that. So I'm going to open BlueJ. And in BlueJ, I've prepared 2 arrays, which are the same as the ones that I visually drew before. In our method, we're going to get as parameters both A and B arrays, which are both 2-dimensional int arrays, those ones. And we're going to pass it on to the method. So let's call it. It's called row and call sum. This is what I called it. And I'll give it A1 and A2. Okay. So we'll do the classic scan. As we know from the first, what was the scan movement that we did on the first array? Basically, we scan it like that. So just regularly, like the classic scan you usually require to do when you're dealing with array. This is the classic scan. It goes just like reading a book, okay? So in order to do that, and my recommendation is to practice on this nested loops I'm going to write here, for you're going to write them almost with any practice that you're getting. So the first row is in charge of the rows, and the second row and the second for loop is in charge of the columns. So now what I'm writing here might be not very understandable, but I'm going to explain. So this row is in charge, this for loop is in charge of the rows. So I'll just put a mark here that it's rows. This one is columns. And whenever this loop is valid, what happens, it goes straight to this loop, and then it stays on that loop again and again and again until this loop breaks and it comes back to here, okay? Which is the incremental part happens at the end. So what happens is this part is the declaration of your iterator. The iterator that is going to follow every position in the array. So for example, we have 3 rows in the array and 3 columns, but the index count starts from 0. So this row is row 0, right here. This row is row 1, this row is row 2. And this is column 0, column 1, column 2. So if I say, and I'm mentioning the position of the 2-dimensional array, I mentioned the position 0, 0. What it means? It means row 0 and column 0. So it goes to here. And row 0, column 1 goes to here, row 0, column 2 goes to here. And then we have row 1. You see, that's the second row, so the index starts at 0, so that's row 1. And then call 0. Row 1, call 1, row 1, call 2, and then it goes to row 2, call 0, row 2, call 1, row 2, call 2, okay? So then what we do is we declare the iterators. That happens once. That's the first thing that happens. This is the declaration, just happen once as the loop enters. This is the condition. So as long as this is valid, it's going to perform whatever that is in that loop. And this loop contains this loop. And then after it finishes with the commands, it comes back to the third part, which is the incrementation of the indexes. Either incrementation or subtraction, whatever you put here. Let's see how the second loop works here. This loop is in charge of the columns, so what we want to do is to read it as so, to go and progress the column every time by one, because by doing that, we'll do this scan. We'll stay on that row, we'll do this scan. Eventually, at the end, we'll go down a line and go again from the start and do this scan. So this is the scan that we're going to do now with the second loop. So in here, what we're going to do is basically we're going to add a sum to count, to add the sum to this variable, like we saw visually. Like we need to add the sum somewhere, so I created a variable. Now I'm going to read from this one. So this is A, I, and J. So from position I and J, which is currently 0, 0, we're going to read that, and we'll add it to the sum, and then we need to multiply it by array B. What's in array B? J and I. So notice that I wrote it the other way around. Here it's I and J, and here it's J and Y. And if you actually follow the positions here, whenever we read a row here, we need to read a column here. And when you do that and we write it on a paper, you write the positions on a paper, you come to realize that it's exactly the same but opposite. Okay, so I and J for this array are exactly meaning the opposite for this array when you're reading the column, when you read it up and down. Okay, so for example, if I'm on the second row here, which is index 0, I will be 1 and J is 0, right? So what we need to read from the second array? From the second array, we need to start reading the second column, right? So the second column is here. We're reading the second row from here. So row number 1, index 1 from here, and row and column index 1 from here. So you see, row 1, column 1. And the full indexes are row 1 and column 0. Okay, so row 1 and column 0 should be matching to that. And if you flip it upside down, you see it's exactly the opposite. So this is row 0 and col 1. For example, this 8 is going to be exactly the same actually. It's going to be 1 and 1, and in here it's also going to be 1 and 1, and this 1 is going to be row 1 and col 2, and it's exactly the opposite from here. So in here it's row 2 and col 1. So it matches. So every time we multiply and add it to the sum. Then after we're done with the scanning of the row, so basically when we scan this row, what we did on in the same time, we multiply all these elements as well. So now we have our sum ready. We added every time with every iteration we add it to the sum. So now we have our sum ready, and we need to put it in the array that we need to return. So first of all, this array doesn't even exist yet. So we're going to create it. We'll call it res, and give it a size of In this case, we have 3 by 3 symmetrical arrays, which should always be the case. So we'll take the length of one of them, and that should give it the size. And I'm going to go down a line here, because after we have this ready, this loop breaks. It means that we reach to here, to the length, which is this line is no longer valid, and this loop breaks, and when it breaks, we have the sum ready in our hands. So we need to add it to our array. So res at I, because I still indicates, could serve us to indicate where we want to place the sum. We'll place the sum here, and reset the sum after we do that to have it prepared and ready for the next line it's reading. So it goes to here, this loop breaks, it means that we are here now, and then we answer the sum to the new array that we created, and reset the sum, and we reach to here. But we're not done with this loop, with this false loop. So what happens now is the I increments. So I is now 1, and we check the value, we check the condition, and it's true. So we go again to the second loop and iterate again. So now we're going to be at I1, which is the second row, and we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to read that like that, and together with this column. And we do the calculation, add it all to sum, add it this time to I, which is 1. So it's the second element of the array. Reset, and go again, go to the last row, reading from this and from this, put it into sum, and then put it into array and reset it. And let's see how it goes. Let's see, after we put it, we're going to return basically res array after it's ready, and we're going to print it out and see how it looks like. So in here I'll create a for loop, a regular for loop. So basically we're going to save this array. So after we call this method, we got the res array returned. We are going to save it as x. Okay, this is where I made a variable, array variable to save it, and we're going to go through this array like that, and system out, print line, actually print, let's see, so x at position I, and then we'll do a small space between them. That's it. Okay, so this is not a static method. Yeah, my bad. I should declare it as a static method. And okay, let's see how it runs and if we have our new array. Okay, so yeah, we did it. Our array is ready and it's got all these numbers. So success. What you need to do is now to try it by yourself, and hopefully you'll practice with arrays. Don't forget, try to keep in mind and memorize this nested loops, because it's important. Basically, the classic reading is going to happen with these loops, and then just the syntax inside is just the comments inside are going to differ, but in most practices you get these classic loops to do. Okay, so we will be back. I will be back with more practices in the future. And until then, I would like to thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.